Hi, I'm Jonah Comstock, Editor-in-Chief at pharmaphorum. I'm here at CAR TCR in Boston on the last day of the conference, and I'm joined by Jonathan Wofford. Uh, what's your title at WellSky?
So I'm the Senior Director of Solution Architecture for Biotherapies.
Great. Well, thanks for chatting with me today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about yourself and about WellSky.
So just my background, I'm an epidemiologist. I spent 10 years as part of a pediatric transplant program, and then I created a piece of software, which I turned into a company, which I sold to WellSky, which is how I got there. And I've been working with WellSky now for about 10 years.
What was your company?
It was called TransStem.
So what brings you here today? What are you hoping to learn at the conference or hoping to share with others about your work?
Well, we're really hoping to share the solutions that we've developed. And there's certainly a lot of challenges in this space that software can help meet. So for our product, we service kind of all the endpoints across the patient and product journey. So if you look at who's here, we have organizations that provide starting materials for these therapies. We have manufacturers, there are clinical programs here, and that's what our software does. We really try to connect all of those different touch points across the patient and product journey. So we're very flexible in terms of how our platform's built, because that's what this industry needs right now.
Yeah.
Because everything's changing, right? The science is changing rapidly. New therapies are coming out. There's over 2,500 clinical trials that are active, and software has to be able to flex to that. And you have to have visibility. So as I said, we have these different organizations. You have manufacturers, you have clinical programs, we have collection centers, and for the groups here that are trying to create allogeneic therapies where we have to have donors, that adds another level. And we
Right.
try to bring that data together while creating more transparency in process and data sharing. So these organizations can talk to each other. So we know if a patient's being collected, then on the manufacturing side, okay, we have a product that's coming. We have to staff up for that. So just to really improve process across that chain, like I said.
You mentioned the challenges of doing that kind of work in an industry that's evolving so
Yes.
quickly. And I mean, that really resonates. Everyone's talking about the need to standardize the kind of standard parts of this process,
Mm-hmm.
but also we hear these innovative presentations, everyone's tinkering with every part of the process.
Even with standard processes, right? They're still different. And that's the challenge trying to build software in this space, is that what these therapies are different, how they're made, it's different, different product types that are being created. How does a system flex to that? And so our approach is we don't manage products so much as a process. And we've really tried to increase configurability on the client side, because a lot of the changes they need aren't necessarily major things, right? It's we need to update this in a protocol. Well,
Yeah.
you shouldn't have to go back to a vendor, have to wait, weeks and weeks for a change to be made. So we're trying to empower our clients through more configurability and more interoperability, so we can get data off instruments. You have a lot of instrument vendors here, right?
Yeah.
And that data needs to be able to flow into workflows, and that's what we're trying to do.
That's really important. I'm sure with so many things going on,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of escapes some people's notice of like the importance of managing that data piece.
And it's the quality control as well. So being able to, with an electronic system, you can put more control in place around steps that are done, right? You make sure that these are executed as they're supposed to be per the protocol. You can have more real-time alerts and, kind of deviation management. So if we have an issue in manufacturing, boom, we can address it right away and pull in
Right.
quality teams. And so it just helps bring efficiency to process as well if we can digitize a lot of this.
Yeah, and I'm sure it helps when people are putting together their regulatory applications to
Right.
be able to have easy access to the data and good data.
And you need the data, right? that's the other piece. So we manage, the clinical side of this as well. So the patients, and you have to be able to look at outcomes. So, if we are doing allogeneic therapies, for example, how do we know who's a good cell therapy donor, right? What donors yield a good product? Because that's part of this now. You have to build cell therapy donor pools,
Right.
and you have to have data to understand, what is effective, what's not effective, where can we improve, and we bring that piece to it as well.
What do you think are some of the most interesting trends in the space right now? Things you've heard here over the last few days?
I really think it's the allogeneic therapies, and if you can get that off the shelf product, I think that's a game changer. for a lot
Yeah,
of this.
that has been a really interesting thread to follow,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because up till now, my understanding is autologous therapies are, maybe more effective, but allogeneic are so much more scalable and
They're
efficient. So
scalable, but
we can
even
work on that gap from either side.
and even with autologous therapies, I mean, there are some challenges there. Can the patient be collected? Are they too sick to be collected? Are there residual tumor cells, that are potentially in that product? And just availability, like I said,
Yeah.
if you can grab this off the shelf and we don't have to wait for a patient to be ready to be collected, that offers some advantages.
Do you think we've reached or we're approaching that tipping point where allo is going to be kind of the main thing people are working on?
I don't think we're there yet. I think it is a main priority for certainly a lot of the groups here.
Yeah.
I think it's in some ways it's kind of a race to see who can get the first effective allotherapies out.
It's sort of a one question and not an if question at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's how I see it.
Any other big trends you're thinking about? I know there's been a ton of talk about solid tumor
Mm-hmm.
and also immunology and the kind of expansion of these therapies into more treatment areas.
Well,
How does that
yeah. I
strike
mean,
you?
just where this is going. I mean, we started with leukemias and lymphomas. You've talked about solid tumors. There's autoimmune diseases now. There was just an approval for sickle cell disease not too long ago. You have trials open for Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what plays out, but you really are talking about the future of medicine here.
Yeah.
And that for us, it's really great to be a part of,
Yeah.
trying to help build that and move it forward.
Because it's a huge sea change if even a handful of these other indications pan out.
Oh, absolutely.
And the volume of cell therapies that we're going to have to be prepared to have the
Right.
infrastructure for is kind of mind-boggling to think about, right?
Right. It is. It is. But again, that comes back to software and being able to help automate some of these processes because you're right, the volumes are going to be significant. And if you think about it from a clinical side where we're trying to enroll patients on studies, on clinical trials, it adds another layer of work there because they have to be able to report these outcomes back to the sponsors.
Yeah.
And in some cases, that means you might be going to 10 different portals to try to put data in. And that's another area we're working on is just trying to bring efficiency to that process as well so that staff can focus on treating the patients and doing the work that's so vital, and we can focus on moving data around.
You mentioned interoperability and all
Mm-hmm.
the different devices there are and
That's
how there's
another
new devices
challenge,
coming out.
right? Because,
Yeah.
because for each of these, right, with each vendor, you have different protocols for how they move data, or can they move data? How do we have to connect? That's another challenge on the software side. It's just building a platform that can be flexible to integrate with these different devices.
Yeah.
But that's key.
We have heard, I have heard from almost everyone I've talked to and seen on stage the importance of really working together on this. There's the challenges of getting from here to there are so big that one company is not going to solve them, and companies
No.
are not going to solve them by kind of purely competing with each other.
Right. No, I agree. I mean, there needs to be a level of collaboration because what we're doing is so important, right? And
Yeah.
it's going to, impact so many people, so many patients. And that should be the end goal here for everyone is how do we improve patient outcomes with these therapies? And to your point, you can't do that in a silo.
Hopefully your software will help to facilitate some of that collaboration.
We hope so, yes.
Well, thank you so much, Jonathan. Great
Absolutely.
chatting with you.
All right. Thank you.